episode of Let's Talk Natural Medicine is brought to you by Bioglan, proud platinum partners of ATMS. For over 40 years, Bioglan has delivered innovative, high-quality vitamins, supplements and superfoods, helping Australians live healthier lives. Find Bioglan at your local pharmacy today. Welcome back to Let's Talk Natural Medicine, brought to you by the Australian Traditional Medicine Society. I'm your host, Natalie Hume, and today we're discussing a topic that affects us all, aging. Here's something to consider. While we can't stop aging, we can embrace it gracefully and healthily. Studies show that natural approaches can have a significant impact on quality of life as we age, from boosting energy to improving cognitive health. Joining us to explore how natural medicine can support graceful aging is Christine Pope, a naturopath and nutritionist. Christine, thanks for joining us today.
You're very welcome, Natalie. And I prefer to look at it as aging outrageously, but, having fun with it.
I like it. Absolutely. Let's age outrageously. All right, so let's start. Maybe we're going to look at sharing why natural medicine is such a powerful tool for aging gracefully, or like you say, outrageously.
Well, I think the thing with natural medicine is that we've got so many tools, and that's what's really nice about, it's like we've got this big toolkit of things that we can actually use or engage with to support our health as we age. And, it's whether it's looking at changes with our diet or supplements or herbs that can support us. It's looking at movement. So whether that's, you get an exercise program, or maybe you've got a series of you're doing yoga or Pilates or some other form of movement that supports you. Personally, I prefer just strapping on a pair of runners and walking around the local park. But, there are different things that you can do. And it's also, we've got such lovely treatments with bodywork therapies and acupuncture that can support people dealing with aches and pains and things like that. And also looking at, where you are mentally with your mindset. Mm-hmm. And, for a lot of women particularly, I think as we age, we become the responsible carers for everyone else, and we don't always look after our own health. And I think that's one area of mindset that really needs a little bit of attention.
There's so many different facets, obviously, to aging. So how did you first become in natural medicine, and especially supporting aging? And what have you seen in your work with your patients and clients as well?
Well, when I first got into natural medicine, it was basically because I was looking at career change. And when I was looking around, it was basically, I looked at a whole bunch of different things. But one of the things that struck me was that I didn't do well with a lot of conventional treatments. And I've got a list of allergies to medications that always makes my GP roll her eyes into the back of her head. So I was looking around for other things that could help me. And one of the things I found that had helped a lot was homeopathy. So originally I studied homeopathy and nutrition. And then later on I upgraded into the full naturopathic qualification and did the bachelor degree. Now, that was my personal experience with natural medicine. But what I found was over that time, initially I started treating a lot of kids. But as I matured in practice, I also started treating a lot of people who were older and struggling with health issues. But for me, always there was that one client that you didn't get the improvement on, that actually would keep you awake at night and, going down a rabbit hole with research and everything else to try and find something that would actually help. And for me, that client was a dementia client who had great family support and connection. So, tick the boxes on those things. I actually thought he was nonverbal for the first couple of appointments because he didn't say anything. His family was doing a lot of the talking, but he did thank me at the third appointment. And what I did find was that it was quite frustrating because even though there was a lot of family support, they really weren't prepared to make any changes in diet. It was just too hard for where they were at this time. We did get him on a couple of supplements that were really calming and helpful, but I wasn't seeing any real improvement, and that was frustrating me. So I heard Dr. Dale Bredesen speak at a conference in Queensland that was run by one of the major supplement companies, and what he said really sat well with me. So I actually went and did his training in the US. Now, part of the reason I went was, it was San Francisco, and I've always wanted to go to San Francisco. So I got a bit of a holiday as well. But the main thing was to go and do this 4-day program he had in what he called the RECODE protocol, which was looking at how to support and even reverse signs of mild cognitive impairment. And subsequently to doing that study in 2016, there's been a significant amount of research that he's done with individual case studies tracking how people are improving with his program. Now, the only other thing with his program was he looked at 36 points of intervention, which is a lot. So what I try to do in my treatment is just boil it down to 4 or 5 areas rather than trying to do all that at that time. And, look, he has now recorded, I think there's a report where there's about 100 case studies, and about 80% of those are showing improvement from the cognitive impairment, which they had all tracked with medical tests and, a very specific MRI scan. So he actually is showing very good improvement with that protocol. So that training really saw me moving more towards a position where I was supporting people to age well, and informed by that protocol around, the major things that really affect your ability to age well, and, affecting your mental health, which I think a lot of people are very concerned about, particularly anyone who's got Alzheimer's or dementia in the family, and they're seeing the decline of a loved one, and they kind of have the feeling of, this could be a problem for me going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And so talking about, I guess, things associated with aging, like joint pain, that memory, brain fog, maybe someone goes into the room and go, what did I come in here for? I don't know if that happens to anyone.
Menopause, but okay. When you go into the kitchen and then you can't remember why you've gone to the kitchen. But yes.
Yeah. Happens to the best of us. As well as energy levels, I guess. So what are some natural strategies where we can, address some of these things that we see that are associated with aging?
So look, one of the things, and this is something that came out of the Bredesen protocol, was the most important thing to do is really address the diet and make sure that your blood sugars are well balanced. So as we age, we tend to get more and more insulin resistant. Now, the reason why this is important is because the biggest user of glucose in the body is the brain, and it uses about 30% of our glucose. So if it's having periods of peaks and troughs all the time, it's going to affect our function, it's going to affect our energy levels, and it's going to affect our ability to focus, and you sort of, I always remember this in corporate, if you had, kind of a carb-laden breakfast, and then at 11 o'clock, you're hungry again and you go for the muffin and the coffee, and you've got like half an hour where you're really firing, and then all of a sudden you crash again. So those periods of peaks and troughs are actually not good for any of our systems going forward. So if you can actually really work on that to make sure that blood sugar is smooth and even release over a period of hours, that can make a really big difference to a lot of those symptoms. And that's probably the most significant thing to work on. The other thing I would say, we're looking at joint pain and that sort of thing, is making sure the diet is not inflammatory. So that means different things for different people. Generally speaking, what I'm meaning is, make sure you're having at least 3 cups of vegetables a day. And so you're getting a lot of those nutrients, the magnesium and potassium from food sources rather than necessarily supplements, which are quite anti-inflammatory. And, it could also be including some anti-inflammatory herbs and spices in your diet as well. Although, you're going to have to drink a lot of turmeric lattes to really get that medicinal impact of turmeric. Maybe if you're doing a turmeric latte and then a curry with turmeric and, something else, you're kind of stockpiling it up. But I think really looking at the diet is critical. And for some people, some foods are inflammatory. Now, probably the one that often gets fingers pointed at it is dairy. And a lot of people, as they get older, they find they're having trouble tolerating dairy, and the usual side effects might be a bit of bloating. I won't go into some of the other bowel symptoms that we naturopaths are so fond of. But more, you might find your nose is a bit runny, there's a bit more mucus in your system, etc. And one of the reasons, it's very straightforward. As we get older, the levels of lactase, which helps break down the lactose, decline. So our ability to have as much dairy reduces.
Mm.
But it can also be an inflammatory food for people. And if you find there's something that you're eating on a regular basis and afterwards you're actually feeling sore and achy, chances are that food is inflammatory for you. And there's a couple of things you can do. One of them is you can actually keep a food diary and just track it and see if there's any patterns, because sometimes it's not just one food, but it's a couple of foods together. For me, avocado and halloumi, not a great combination.
Oh,
Um,
yum.
well, I know, yum, but not a great combination.
No.
But for other people, it can be, the other thing we think about for people with kind of rheumatoid conditions is possibly, that plant family with potatoes and the capsicum and the tomatoes in it. That can sometimes be inflammatory for people. And naturopaths are good at doing the sort of testing that can kind of pick up what it may be in terms of a food that's inflammatory. But usually the first thing I would say is just, look at your diet, work more on balancing your blood sugars and having, a decent amount of protein with each meal and a good, half a plate of vegetables. And if that's not doing enough, then look at testing.
Mm-hmm. Great. Some great food points there. Absolutely. And I'm sorry you can't have avocado and halloumi.
That's all right. I have them separately.
This episode of Let's Talk Natural Medicine is brought to you by Bioglan, proud platinum partners of ATMS. Bioglan is your go-to pharmacy-only provider of high-quality vitamins, supplements, and superfoods. Their commitment to innovation and unique formulations has earned them a reputation for excellence in supporting health and wellness. Together, we're building a stronger, healthier future for natural medicine. Thank you, Bioglan, for your partnership and support. Can we now look at introducing maybe some herbs, nutrients? We've already spoken about dietary changes, but maybe the herbs and nutrients that can help really maintain health and vitality as we age.
So, look, I think the thing is for a lot of older people, I'm a little bit reluctant to give them too many details about herbal medicines, only because I find you've actually got to look at what medications they're on and make sure that there's no contraindications. Although usually it's more like if you take this with your blood pressure medication, it may reduce your blood pressure a bit more. So it tends to be additive. So I'm just going to concentrate on a couple that are, reasonably safe, or you can use on a basis of a tea. So the first one is green tea, which I think has a lovely antioxidant quality. It's also good for energy. And the thing is, if you find too much caffeine is a problem, then often what you can do with green tea is just make the initial pot, have a couple of cups in the morning, and then refresh the pot and have a little bit more green tea, but it will probably not have the same level of caffeine in, but it will still have the other beneficial nutrients coming out of those tea leaves. Look, there's a lot of other herbs that I think are worth mentioning. And I think really, in terms of brain function, you've got things like ginkgo that can be really good for improving circulation in that space and for improving memory. And from an anti-inflammatory basis, I guess the curcumin that we already mentioned, or the turmeric latte, is probably another one that I find really helpful. But normally with curcumin, I like to make sure there's also some supportive nutrients, because it's considered a very cold herb, and sometimes with some women when they take it they actually flush a little bit more. So I usually like to make sure there's a little bit of ginger, which is a bit more warming, or a little bit of black pepper with it to help, because they're what we call circulatory stimulants. So what they do is they help push the benefit of it through the system, but also they compensate a little bit for the coldness of that herb with a little bit more warmth. And I think you'll find in most recipes that are using turmeric, you'll find that there's actually garlic or ginger or black pepper or one of these things in there as well to actually support it. Now, from a supplement perspective, I think there was a lovely Harvard Medical School study that said that basically over the age of 50, a daily multivitamin is really supportive. And when I say multivitamin, I mean B vitamins. So B vitamins are really important for producing energy from your food. So if you're finding your energy is a little bit lower, then actually a good quality B multivitamin. So when I say multivitamin, I mean B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B9, and B12. And then often a lot of multivitamins will have some other minerals in them as well, but they usually tend to be very small amounts. So that can be really good support. But the other nutrient that I think is really important, particularly as we age, is CoQ10 or ubiquinol. And basically that helps with energy production in the cells. So you think about the B, I kind of think about the B vitamins helping you produce energy from your food. And then when it gets to the cells, you need the CoQ10 or ubiquinol to actually generate that energy production in your little factory units, which are called mitochondria. So I do find the ubiquinol can be a bit of a game changer. And it's also very supportive for people, anyone who has heart or kidney problems. So generally, if anyone's on a statin, I like them taking ubiquinol or CoQ10 as support, because often when you're on that medication, it does reduce the level so that you may actually start to feel more tired. And I think it's really important, because what you want to do is maintain energy production in the muscle, because, you know, the big organs that you're relying on, like the heart and kidney, are muscles. So that would probably be the other thing that I would suggest in terms of supplements. And then just going back to the, you know, just eat real food, mostly plants, not too much, I think is probably the most comprehensive advice you can give on that. But the reason for that is there's a whole level of phytonutrients and other plant-based chemicals in food which actually support our health and healing. And it's not always as easy to get it out of a pill, or when it comes in a pill, it may not have all the other things in it that actually allow it to be activated or recycled in the body. So years ago, we knew that vitamin C was really helpful for immunity and also good skin, for collagen production. But it took a while to figure out that actually what you needed with it was bioflavonoids, so that it would actually recycle the vitamin C and you get more value out of it. So I think when you can get it from food, you're going to be getting a better quality nutrient from it, and it's going to be more useful for you going forward. So, and you know, it also comes with the benefit if you're eating your 3 cups of vegetables a day. You're getting a range of your minerals and your plant chemicals, and you're getting it from a range of sources. So I think that is also really important for you.
That's such a great list. So thank you so much for sharing that with us as well. So we're going to move on to our fact or fiction segment, where I'm going to share a common myth about aging and natural medicine, and I'd like you to tell us if it's fact or fiction. So here's the question: is it normal to be tired and fatigued as you get older?
Look, I think there can be some reduction in energy levels, but I don't think it should be I turn 60 and all of a sudden I'm exhausted and I can't do anything. And I think if something like that happens, it's a sign that actually there may be something else going on. And I would go and get a full screen done and check, you know, get all your bloods checked and make sure there's nothing else happening. Because I really don't think it's normal. And I think if you look at cultures with people who actually have a lot of movement in their day, you know, they talk about the blue zones and stuff, but I'm actually thinking more about my grandmother, who until she was 96 used to go down to the markets every day with a little trolley, you know, those bags on wheels,
Yeah.
and do her shopping, buy her fresh food, go back home, you know. So every day she was moving. And then she would also always prepare a 3-course main meal at lunch, which was, you know, a soup made from stock, and a main course and dessert. I mean, they didn't eat much in the evenings, but, you know, most of her food was prepared from scratch. You know, she was still living unassisted until she was 96. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's common for energy levels to decline. Now, there were a couple of other things going on there. She'd worked until she was in her 70s as a district nurse, so she was out and about through the area and knew lots of people, so there's lots of community and connection.
Yeah.
And the other part of it was she was, you know, she never owned a car, so she either walked or took public transport, you know, and so there was a lot more movement in her normal day than I think a lot of people. And I really do think it's move it or lose it, or only exercise bits of your body you want to keep working.
And I love how you said about community and connection, because I think that has been shown to be as bad for aging as many other things as well, a facet of health.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at the tendency of people to sit on their phones and not actually talk to anyone around them nowadays, you can already see the impact that's having on their connection with other people and their brain function and their ability to focus. So if you take that over 10 or 15 years, can you imagine how devastating it is that you don't have other people to talk to and interact with, et cetera, et cetera? And, you can find your communities in activities or other things. It doesn't necessarily need to be family. And sometimes as we get older, the friends we have perhaps don't have the same interests anymore. Or if you've got friends and you always feel headachy and exhausted after catching up with them, they may not be the right people to have as friends going forward. It may be just too exhausting. There is always that. But I think the other thing too is they say in retirement you need 5 hobbies. So you should probably start working on those before you hit that point. I tell people they're allowed to have 2 of them can be physical activities.
Yes.
Some of them need to be other activities, and it could be volunteering. It could be, more study. Like there's no reason you shouldn't continue using your brain. In fact, I think you'll find things work better if you do. And, that they can count 2 forms of activities. So whether it's going to yoga or the gym or something else. But I think really for a lot of people, they'd be better off, playing tennis or bowls or something that actually is also embracing that community as well.
Well, to stimulate my brain and reduce my aging, I learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube this last year.
Well,
that was hard.
I've been working on Sudokus, and because I got down to being able to do it in like 9 minutes. And then I did notice after I had that surgery in December that it was like back up to 16 minutes. I'm like, no. I'm just working on that at the moment. But I think the thing is with, if you're doing puzzles and things like that, you should work on something that actually you don't find easy. So for me, really, Sudoku, I probably should. I like maths and numbers, so that's not a challenge for me. I should actually be working. I do Wordle every day, but I think, crosswords or things that work more on that skill set are probably more helpful.
So that is absolutely amazing. And thank you so much. Our listeners are, I'm sure, taking all of this in. So really quickly, if you can, top tips for healthy aging, what initial steps would you recommend?
I think 2 things. First sort out the blood sugar, balance your blood sugar with diet. And the second thing would be find some forms of movement that you like and enjoy.
Yep. Fabulous. I like those. You've got to keep it simple and doable.
Yeah, exactly. And, a lot of that doesn't require a lot of other, it doesn't require you to have a lot of other equipment or support. You might have 1 or 2 sessions with a practitioner if you're really struggling to actually get that right. And I think that's probably a really helpful thing to do, because if you think about the amount of money you'll save over time on your health if you sort it out now, it's a really effective preventative strategy.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much, Christine, for sharing your expertise with us today and inspiring us. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks, Natalie.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of Let's Talk Natural Medicine. If you're looking for a practitioner, visit atms.com.au and click on Find a Practitioner. And don't forget to sign up to our Friends of Natural Medicine newsletter for wellness tips, natural remedies, and more. Here are your quick wins for aging gracefully. 1, focus on diet that supports a healthy blood sugar. Keep active with regular exercise, and also prioritize movement and community as well. And keep learning, always forever learning. Until next time, take care and stay naturally well. Love what you heard today? Then hit the follow button to stay tuned for more deep dives into holistic health and wellness. If you're feeling the positive vibes, leave us a 5-star review. It makes a huge difference in spreading the message of natural medicine far and wide.